They say he need to stop it, he probably the office rocker. That's why he cannot be bothered when they try to stop him talking. It only makes him go harder, it pushes the content farther, huh? I know you thinking you probably should have thought harder, huh? But since you're thinking, I guess it's my time to speak again. I know you gotta be wondering what the secret is. How did I manage to do it without no witnesses? Shit, I'm on my Dave Chappelle shit.
You know what I mean? I'm on my Dave Chappelle shit. You know what I mean?
I guess you don't, huh? It's an inside joke kind of thing. Yeah, I mean. Let's go again. They say he need to stop it, he probably the office rocker. That's why he cannot be bothered when they try to stop him talking. It only makes him go harder, it pushes the content farther, huh? I know you thinking you probably should have thought harder, huh? But since you thinking, I guess it's my time to speak again. I know you gotta be wondering what the secret is. How did I manage to do it without no witnesses? Shit, I'm on my Dave Chappelle shit.
You know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
I'm on my Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle shit.
You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? I'm on my Dave Chappelle shit.
You know what I mean?
Good music, bro. They say he need to stop it, he probably the office rocker. That's why he cannot be bothered when they try to stop him talking. It only makes him go harder, it pushes the content farther, huh? I know you thinking you probably should have thought harder, huh? But since you're thinking, I guess it's my time to speak again. I know you gotta be wondering what the secret is. How did I manage to do it without no witnesses? Shit, I'm on my Dave Chappelle shit.
You know what I mean? I'm on my Dave Chappelle shit. You know what I mean?
I guess you don't, huh? It's an inside joke kind of thing.
I'm on my Dave Chappelle shit.
Yeah, I mean.
You know what I mean?
Let's go again. They say he need to stop it, he probably the office rocker. That's why he cannot be bothered when they try to stop him talking. It only makes him go harder, it pushes the content farther, huh? I know you thinking you probably should have thought harder, huh? But since you thinking, I guess it's my time to speak again. I know you gotta be wondering what the secret is. How did I manage to do it without no witnesses? Shit, I'm on my Dave Chappelle shit.
You know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
I'm on my Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle shit.
You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? I'm on my Dave Chappelle shit.
You know what I mean?
Talking on mute and y'all just letting me talk on mute. What's going on, man? It's so great to see y'all all in here on this beautiful, beautiful Wednesday evening, afternoon. And it's beautiful for me because we're finally back to Alabama weather. And I'm really glad about that Alabama weather, about getting that back, being able to have the sunshine. Ain't no sunshine in this song. Anyway, so glad to see you all as you're coming in. As always, please shout out where you are joining us from, where you're watching from, what you got going in your life. Damn, that is a big ass truck. I don't know if y'all could hear that, but like I thought I was about to get like ran over by a T-Rex or something. That was pretty big. But yeah, let us know where you're watching us from. Let us know why you're watching. Why do you keep coming back to this channel, man? Why y'all just be coming? Y'all just basically watching me get old, watching me rant. You know what I'm saying? Man. Oh, Dark Light is ready whenever Z-Dog wants to get me help in production. Yes, man. Reach out to Zernio. He'd love to meet you. He'd love to get you involved. Pennsylvania. That's what I'm talking about. PA. Pennsylvania. Knows how to party. Pennsylvania. I'm sure that's not how the song goes, but it works for the day. It works for the day. Again, so great to see all of you in today. I hope y'all are enjoying the music. New York is in the house. My wife is from New York, Far Rockaway. So it's always nice to see some New Yorkers out there. Some New Yorkers. Every now and then I can get in the accent. Some New Yorkers. Santa Barbara County. Come on now. Oh, yeah. Okay, I know exactly where that is. Yeah, let's get connected, man. Like, and that's what I love seeing where everybody in our community, all the different places that they're from. I don't have a lot of announcements today, but like just because like when I go live, I do like to spend time talking to the community and talking about the community. I watch your videos because I am a skeptic and I enjoy how you add some swag and flavor to what you spit. I appreciate that, man. Akron, Ohio. Yes, like I used to travel to Ohio like 2 or 3 times a year. One of my former mentors, which we still have decent relationship, but one of my former mentors is a pastor in Cleveland and Akron and Canton. He has like three campuses. The Garden State is in the building. I watch you for you have my middle name. Oh, that's dope. That's dope. You're another Lamar. Like that's dope. I like meeting Lamars. I met one white Lamar, and that threw me. That threw me. I was like, "What? That's not your name." You know. I don't know. I don't know. Um, that is so awesome. That's cool. I like meeting Lamars. I do have one announcement for y'all today. So y'all know we've started a new series on our Sunday sessions for March, and it's the Greater Gospel series. And if you haven't watched the Sunday series yet, like, hey, bruh, what I'm telling you, you sleeping, you're missing a good one. And today's conversation might make you want to go. It might make you want to go watch them. But I've mentioned where the idea for this series kind of comes from in several of my Sunday lives. And so we have 5 Sundays in the month of March. And when I was a pastor, Fifth Sunday was like my favorite Sunday. Okay, so I'm gonna neuro spicy out for a moment. Y'all just gotta follow me. Fifth Sundays were my favorite Sundays as a pastor. Number one, because it was a day that was always more so focused on visitors showing up than it was members, which for me as a communicator, Fifth Sundays meant I didn't have to preach traditional like stuff. Like I could be as swagged out as I wanted to. I would show up with the most hood wear possible on Fifth Sundays, preaching the most like hood messages, like I got 5 on it. You know what I'm saying? 5-finger discount, like little stuff like that. What you sipping on? Like it used to have family and friends day. Yes, it was my favorite time. We do potluck style food. We'd always do things for the community that we lived in, and we'd always have something available for the church, for the children. And those were like my favorite days. I hated Easter, and Easter was very similar to that because Easter we had like a lot of those same things going on, but I absolutely could not stand Easter or Christmas. As a preacher, as a pastor, I hated Easter and Christmas because it confined what I could talk about. Oh, I hate it. These, in the words of Usher, these are my confessions. Okay. I hated it. And I know I'm not the only one. You know, any other Sunday, I can preach whatever the hell I want to preach. But then I gotta get to Christmas and I gotta talk about this useless ass baby. That's not fun. I don't want to talk about this useless ass baby. And then on Easter, I have to talk about this dude that got his ass beat and he was supposed to be all powerful, but then he gets his ass beat, but then tricks on everybody else because he is all powerful and he rises from the grave, but then like literally ghost everybody after that moment. And I have to find a way to make that shit relevant every year. Like that is not fun. So Fifth Sundays are the Sundays that I actually felt most like a humanist. It's the Sundays that I think Fifth Sundays trained me for Bridge City because on Fifth Sundays, like I didn't give a fuck, like, because our church was kind of the hood church anyway. So like the visitors, everybody inviting Pookie and Ray Ray and them. So we were going to have a good time. And I was going to have a good time with them because that's what I wanted. Like I told you, like I didn't leave the church because the gospel was broken. I already knew the gospel was broken. I was trying to fix the gospel. I left the church because the gospel was limited. I left the church because the gospel was harmless. Now, if I could do all of those things without having to preach bullshit, you better believe I'd be doing it. Right now, if there was a church that called me and said, hey, bro, come be senior pastor, bishop, apostle, evangelist, whatever the fuck, and you just don't have to preach bullshit, oh, I'm in there. I'm in there like swimwear. I'm in there like Michael Jackson at a little kid's pool party. Did I go too far? Was that too far? I think that might have been too far. But anyway, the point is, I've been excited about this series. I said all of that to say I've been excited about this series because it's definitely pulpit me for until March is over. Like, you're getting everything from preaching to teaching, but it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. It was a bit much. Christmas and Easter were spectacles at my former church, and almost all the churches. Yes, absolutely is a spectacle. You know. Oh man, y'all are funny. And so we do have a fifth Sunday coming up in March. And so in the spirit of that, I know we're still primarily virtual. We're still primarily online, but in the spirit of that, I wanted to kind of take a break and do something different that day. It still be within the theme of the greater gospel, but I'm going to have two friends on the channel with me that day, possibly a third one. My third one has taken a break from social media, so I had to find another way to contact them, and so we'll see if they make it. But as of now, it's going to be me, Britt Harley, and Kyle Butler on the last Sunday of March, and we're having a conversation talking about why we are out of church, but we're still here helping. And y'all know I've mentioned Kyle. Well, y'all have seen Kyle on the channel before, but y'all know I've mentioned Kyle a few times. One thing that I absolutely love about Kyle is, just like myself, he is a former pastor. And as a former pastor, he came out. As a former pastor, he when he left, he didn't stop what I'll call ministering to people. So if you look at Kyle Butler's content on Facebook and on TikTok, he is constantly encouraging people to, so I'll just kind of say his message might be the God of your own life. Like, you don't need to depend on God. You don't need to depend on church. You are beautiful. You are wonderful. You are worthy of this experience. And just a really powerful, loving message that for me was a breath of fresh air. And then like Britt, I've not met yet. But also, like myself, like Kyle, and like Joe, who I've mentioned, is a former minister. Yeah. And she now is out of Christianity, is an atheist. She's something that's called a spiritual atheist. And I'm like, yes, these are the conversations I crave. And she uses her time helping people. Like, I've had so many people in the community who've mentioned her name to me. Now, I'm going to tell y'all something about me. I am aloof, okay? So please, y'all don't be coming to me asking me if I know such and such and if I know such and such, because 9 times out of 10, I do not. I do not watch a lot of podcasts. Like, I don't. And when I do, I don't watch a lot of deconstruction content, like, period. Number one, because like I deconstructed, like I went through the process myself, by myself, all by my lonesome. Everything out there existed, and I checked it out, and I was just like, nah, that's not for me. You know what I'm saying? That's not for me. So there's actually a lot of people in the community that I don't know. And so it's always nice when someone comes to me and recommends someone, say, hey, check their stuff out. 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to check their stuff out because my schedule is like, eesh. Like, I don't have a life yet. Like, I have books that I haven't finished writing, and like, I'm like 2 years behind. So it's like, yeah, it's like, do you know such and such? And I'm like, oh man, I don't really watch a lot of that. How do you think I get so much done? There's no way I can get as much done as I get done if I had the free time that some people have. And I could throw shots there, but I'm not going to. But anyway, last Sunday in March, for our Sunday sessions, it's going to be a group conversation. All right, so are y'all ready to jump into our kind of topic for today? Let me biggie size my notes here. And for those of you who hear me say it but don't know what I mean make the font bigger. I have to make the font bigger because my eyes, these glasses, they are not for show. They are not for show. Your shit, and I get it. We have limited time and energy. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. People ask, and I was like, I don't know. They were like, I can't believe you don't know. I can't believe it's not butter. I don't know. Diddy size it. That's hilarious. All right. So today I want to kind of have this conversation about the difference between cynicism and skepticism. And just out of curiosity, I should have ran a poll. Just out of curiosity. How many of you identify as is there anybody in the chat who identifies as a cynic? I think we'd all easily identify as skeptical. I think especially if you're in the deconstruction side of things, you'd say, yeah, I'm skeptical. I'm a skeptic. But I wonder how many people are aware enough to know the line between skepticism and cynicism. And because while both are typically used to describe a doubting mindset, they represent very different intellectual and emotional postures. Skepticism is a tool for finding the truth, while cynicism is a shield against being disappointed. You know, I hope this is. I hope this conversation sparks something, y'all, because we're gonna go somewhere. So, skepticism is a method of critical thinking. It's not an approach. It's a method of critical thinking. A skeptic suspends judgment until they have sufficient evidence to support a claim. It is an active, objective process used to filter out misinformation. So the goal of skepticism is to reach an accurate conclusion based on the facts. So an example of skepticism, real easy one, is refusing to believe a miracle cure. Refusing to believe that a miracle cure works until you see peer-reviewed clinical trials. All right. So in my community, there is this story about this doctor named Dr. Sebi, or some people pronounce it Sebi, but Dr. Sebi. He died a few years back, but he is commonly known within the context of my community and culture as someone who has cured AIDS. They said he did it, and they're convinced that he did it. And when I say they're convinced, like almost everybody that I've met that believes it, right? So like at one point, my ex-drug dealer, he used to want to talk about Dr. Sebi, and I'm like, dude, I just want my ounce. Like that's all I really care about. But this information was out there for a long time. Like even now, people associate all types of things to it, and they say, yeah, he cured cancer, and the government, hid it from everybody. And my question, like, because most time people are telling me about it, but I do want you to like people in Hollywood believe this too. But my question was always like, how do you know then? Because they would be like, yeah, he cured cancer, he cured AIDS, and I'm like, okay, did you have AIDS? Did anybody you know have AIDS? And then you saw them take his, what do you call it? I don't know, his toxin. I don't know. You take his little stuff, and then they got healed. Is it cured? And the doctor confirmed the before and after type of situation. Is that what happened? It's like, no, it's never that. It's someone told me he did this, and a lot of people believe it, so therefore it must be true. And then I was like, well, how do you know it's true? Well, we don't have the evidence because they burned all the evidence. So then I'm like, well, if they burned all the evidence, how did you ever hear the story? Like help me understand. Now, that's not being cynical. That's being skeptical. And skeptical can come off as cynical at times, right? Because the person telling you that story is trying their hardest in many times to convince you that their certainty is not borrowed. And that's ultimately what the tool of skepticism helps us do. It helps us navigate between, between information that can be validated and information that is not legitimate by being able to ask the questions, watch this, by being able to ask the questions I would ask if I seriously, honestly, genuinely wanted to know the truth. So if I genuinely wanted to believe that this was true, what I'd ask for is evidence, not anecdote. Why? Because only evidence leads me to repeatable processes. No, if there is somebody out there who has the key who has the cure for a life debilitating disease, I don't care what type of conspiracy that you think may be going on around it. No, if it exists, I'd want to know that it exists. And the only way that I could know that it exists is I'd have to ask fact-finding questions. I'd have to ask clarifying questions. I'd have to have ask questions that hold it to the standard. So skepticism is a method of careful doubt. Good afternoon, Shelwyn. Skepticism is a method of careful doubt. It withholds belief until there's enough evidence, logic, or demonstration. Okay. And another way of saying withholding belief is that it withholds judgment until there is enough evidence, logic, or demonstration. A skeptic can be open-minded, curious, and fair because skepticism is trying to promote or to protect the truth. Now, cynicism, on the other hand, is a disposition or a worldview. Okay. A cynic assumes that people are motivated purely by self-interest and that the system is inherently corrupt. It is a passive, subjective stance that often dismisses ideas before investigating them. Now, I think one of the most critical things about what social media has done to us, it has made us passive while convincing us that we're active. I'm going to say that one more time. I'm going to run it back. I think one of the things that social media has done for us is that it has rendered us passive while convincing us that we're being active. Cynicism is a passive, subjective stance. All right. And to be honest, it's kind of like a protective nature. The goal of cynicism is to avoid being fooled or let down by assuming the worst up front. So an example of cynicism is assuming that a charity only exists as a tax haven for the rich, regardless of the good work that they do. Now, this was something that I actually noticed when I first started kind of coming out and having more conversations. I found that a lot of the criticisms of church and church culture that came from the secular community were cynicism, not skepticism. And I've talked about this in a whole video. My shoulder was itching. I've talked about this in a whole video, and I'm like, no, that's why you're failing to actually reach people who are currently in church, because you're describing a caricature based off of your own cynicism, not based on actual involvement or experience, right? And this is something that I because I see this, you may not see this, and if you don't, then don't worry about it. But I see this as like we're promoting an opinion culture where everybody gets to have an opinion regardless of their qualification in a community that's supposed to be based on critical thinking and skepticism. All right. And so this is my humble perspective. If you've never had experience on the inside of a church, if you've never actually been an active member of a church, then stop pretending that you know how churches work. That's dishonest. And I see, like, I hate to say it, I see rampant dishonesty in the secular community. And it's easy to identify. And I'm not just calling it out because it is inaccurate. I'm calling it out because it's not effective. If what you're saying about the church is not true to the church, then they just see you as the liar. And technically you are. You see what I'm saying? So, okay, back to cynicism. Cynicism is a posture of distrust. It tends to assume bad motives, corruption, hypocrisy, or disappointment before the facts are fully in. Our politics right now are preying on our rampant cynicism, because unlike skepticism, skepticism requires the evidence. Cynicism does not. Cynicism reacts based on the trigger. Okay. Skepticism cannot jump to the conclusion. Skepticism cannot jump to the end until it has gone through the process. It has to go through the investigation. It has to go through the exploration. It has to get to the evidence. Cynicism just hears information it does not like and attaches itself to it. Damn, this is good. Because it in itself is a posture. A cynic is often not just questioning claims, but they're questioning people. Cynicism is trying to protect the self from being fooled or being hurt. So here's the big takeaway from this part. Skepticism is a methodology, okay? Skepticism is a methodology. It's how we get to information. Cynicism is a mindset. It's how we filter information even before we have it. Skepticism is a methodology. Cynicism is a mindset. Okay? One evaluates claims by evidence. The other criticizes people by preference. Oh, this is good. This is good. Y'all are not with me on this Wednesday afternoon. Man. All right. So just to kind of give a few kind of key features at a glance. Skepticism, logic, and evidence. All right. Cynicism, and y'all not going to like me for saying it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Cynicism is emotion and bias. All right. It's emotion and bias. And it's okay. We all have them. We all have them. Breathe in. Watch this. Okay. Let's do this exercise together. Repeat after me. Say, I am biased. I know it. I am aware of it. And I am working on it. That is your only honest truth. You know, I am biased. I know it. I am aware of it. I am working on it. You have to live in that truth, or you will be thinking your biases are skepticism. No, you'll be mixing them all up. I'm being skeptical. No, you're being cynical. Okay? See, skepticism is going to point to the logic and the evidence. All right? Cynicism is going to your emotion, how it made you feel, and your biases. Okay? And those biases, though, you know, bias is at the seat. I like that. Bias is at the seat of every form of discrimination. Okay? Bias is at the seat of every form of discrimination. And so once we know that, no, I am biased. I am biased. I am biased to Black people. I am. That's been my experience. You expect me not to be? I am biased to men. I've been a man my whole life. Me and my ding-a-lang, okay? I am biased to people who wear glasses because I've had to live the struggle of being called four eyes ever since I was a kid. No, I'm biased to bald people because I'm bald. You know, we are all biased. I know it. You know what I'm saying? I'm aware of it and I'm working on it. I am interrogating where my biases get in the way. I am interrogating where my biases create harm. You know, this is so good. Skepticism has an open but cautious mindset. Skepticism is open. It's just cautious. No, if people can jump off of buildings and fly, a skeptic is open to that idea. They're just not going to be the first person to jump off the building. They're going to need to see some evidence. And even just seeing you flying is not enough, because that's only evidence that you can do it. That ain't evidence I can do it yet. I need some understanding. You know, so The skeptical mindset is open, it's just cautious. But the cynical mindset is typically closed and predetermined. It already knows answers that it's never actually tried to get. So it already knows the answer that it's never even tried to get. Skepticism leads to discovery and learning, while cynicism, and this is probably going to be like my biggest point, cynicism leads to stagnation and disengagement. And I'm like, oh, because here's a real constructive critique. Here's a real question. How is the secular community this big with so many different names? It's a different name every year, ain't it? How do we have so many names, so many popular people, but very few communities? How does that happen? Because we're not being very careful about drawing the line between skepticism and cynicism. So we're not gathering around what we're trying to know. We're majoring in what we already know. So there is no room for exploration. There is no room for collaboration. There is really no real room for connection. There's only room for consumption. And so the market becomes, come see how smart I am. And if you try hard enough, you can be smart too. And that's just commercialism. And mind you, I'm not 100% against commercialism, but if we're going to be doing it, we need to be honest about naming what it is. So that way we understand what we're not going to get from it. See, like it became clear to me why we didn't have much community after attending a few events. It became real clear. Like, ooh, okay. You don't know how to check. We don't know how to check our biases. We're not aware of our cultural shortcomings. Okay. All right. So listen, healthy skepticism is vital. Thank you so much, Dark Light. Healthy skepticism is vital, especially for someone focused on deconstruction or critical analysis. It allows you to dismantle faulty logic without losing the ability to build something better in its place. Cynicism, however, can be a bit of a trap. It feels like wisdom because you're never surprised when things go wrong, but it often prevents you from seeing when things are actually going right. One builds better communities. Yes, skepticism builds better communities. Again, just kind of going back to the greater gospel type of aspect, skepticism is our strategic advantage. It is our leverage in building healthier communities. Skepticism is our leverage. So why would we get that leverage and then not use it to build communities of skeptical folk? All right. So skepticism builds better communities. Cynicism just watches them burn. Since skepticism is a tool for reconstruction and cynicism is often a reaction to past disappointment, they play massive roles in the deconstruction process. When you're stripping away old systems of belief, it's easy for the two to get blurred. It's real easy not to recognize when your skepticism has become cynicism. A great question to ask, like, am I being cynical or am I being skeptical, is what truth am I trying to get to? Yeah. Okay. So deconstruction almost always begins with skepticism. You start asking for the receipts on claims of divine authority, historical accuracy, or even moral superiority. You start wanting to know. You start looking behind the curtain. That's skepticism. Skepticism is cautiously trying to get closer to the truth. Skepticism is not looking for something to run away from. that's just a feature, right? Skepticism is looking to get closer to the truth, but in order to get closer to the truth, it has to trim away the fat. That's the methodology. Think about it like this way. A sculptor looks at a stone, right? Everybody else looks at the stone and just sees a stone. The skeptic understands that there's something else inside the stone, but I can't really see it until I trim away everything else. So the skeptic in the conversation is the person that is trying to bring David out of the stone. I use David because that's one like the most famous sculptures. I don't know the other ones. Like we can do Donald Duck if you want to. Yeah, trying to pull Donald Duck out of the stone, or maybe even Daffy. There's a lot of D ducks. There's Daisy Ducks, Daisy Dukes. Dang. Okay, you see what I did there? All right, so let's go back. So, skeptical deconstruction is you start looking at the historical context of the general epistles, right? And this is the kind of information that I share on my Monday through Friday content. The evidence doesn't support the traditional authorship, so I have to adjust my view of their authority. All right. Now, as a pastor, I have been working on my skepticism for a very, very long time because I remember having to wrestle with having to come to terms with the Gospels are not written by people named Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and then realizing that theologians knew this. Like it wasn't a secret. The way some people want to present is like, oh, they were hiding this. No, it wasn't a secret. Pastors didn't care. Pastors weren't looking for it. Most pastors found out on accident unless they went to seminary. And most pastors are not going to seminary. Theology, seminary, and church are two completely different institutions that rarely have anything to do with each other. And so theologians rarely know what pastors know, and pastors rarely know what theologians know. So theological scholars cannot talk to you about the modern church. That's not where their work is. It's not where their experience is. But in the same way, modern pastors cannot talk to you about theology. That is not where their work is. Which is why debating modern Christians on theology is a waste of fucking time. Because they're not going to church for theology. They're going to church for community. They're going to church for solidarity. Yeah, we're gonna make it make sense. So the result in a skeptical deconstruction is wrestling with the misinformation to get to the right information. It's not just dismissing things for the sake of dismissing them. Cynical deconstruction leads you to say stuff like all religious leaders are just con artists looking for a paycheck, and anyone who still believes is just a sheep. Now, I'm not going to say that's not true. I'm going to say you don't have the evidence to support that claim, which means that you didn't get there. You didn't get to that conclusion through skepticism. That is cynicism. And that is likely coming from the bias of dealing with the harm of religious superstition. Oh, man, I love it. That's right. Skeptical thinking is also scientific thinking. Most people aren't thinking scientifically, so they never use the scientific method and are able to, exercise a modicum of skepticism. That is so true. That is so true. Man, you're telling the truth. I try. At least to the best that I can understand it, right? At least to the best that I can understand it. And that's all we can really do. But the result is like when you're dealing with things from a cynical perspective, especially in construction, you stop in deconstruction, you stop looking for community or truth altogether because you've already decided that all forms of community is a scam. And then like most times when I hear people describe what they think is a scam, I am often overwhelmed at how much people don't understand about just how things work, just economics, really. Like I listen to people all the time who have these really strong opinions on what we should be doing economically. But then when you want to talk to them about macroeconomics or microeconomics or statistics, they've not done any study there. And I'm like, hold up, how did you get to these opinions about the economy without understanding economics. And it's not just opinions, it's like strong commands. This is what we should be doing. How did you get to that thought? How did you get to that conclusion? How did you get to that place of certainty? I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm saying, how did you get there? Damn, that's a whole conversation. Because when we was in the Falling in Love with Reason series and we were talking about relationships, I said one thing that if you're like, for people who are dating and stuff like that, if you're dating somebody and you're trying to figure out if this person is a leader, because I said it takes two leaders to really make a relationship, two or more. Hey now, wherever two or more are joined together. I'm sorry. But in order for relationships to work, they got to be equal. So everybody got to be leaders at the table. And so I give people this diagnostic question. If you can figure out if somebody has been a leader in their own life, take them out for lunch, order them some food, sit across the table and ask them this one question. How did you get here? How did you get here? It's a sneaky question. I know it is a sneaky little question, but it tells you so much about a person's awareness, sense of accountability, and sense of responsibility in their own lives. Okay? A person who can tell you this is how I got here. This is, regardless of where here is. Here can be a bad place. It can be a not so great situation. But if that person can articulate to you how they got there, what roles that they played that got them there, what mistakes they made that got them there, that person thinks like a leader. This is how did we get here? Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Let me go. Leadership. That's my subject. I love talking about leadership. And you're going to hear a lot of that on this channel. So get used to it. So speaking of leadership, let's talk about leadership and community building from the aspect of skepticism and cynicism. So as a founder and as a leader, whether you're skeptical, whether you're leaning into your skepticism or cynicism, dictates how you handle your team and your members. So I'm a skeptical leader. Like watch this. I am skeptical. And I don't believe in perfection. So I don't believe in predestination. Okay. I don't believe in perfection. I don't believe in purity. I don't believe in predestination. None of them. Not one. So I don't believe in a linear roadmap between where I am and what I'm aiming for. I am aware that there are multiple variables that impact anything that I'm doing, many of which are either bigger than me or beyond me. And so my job is to be nimble enough to update my realism in real time, to watch what's going on and to be able to navigate, to adjust. Even when I was in the church world, I lived by this mindset, which I got from one of my mentors, Pastor Mike McClure Jr. And that is, we don't make excuses, we make adjustments. And that is how I live my life. You know, excuses are only valuable if you have someone to give them to and they can do something about them. And if you don't have somebody that you can give them to who can do something about them, then they really don't have any value other than to make you comfortable not moving forward. So I don't make excuses, I make adjustments. Okay. So sorry, y'all. So so this impacts the way that I operate as a leader. I am a skeptical leader. I trust, but I verify. And that's, watch this, that's not just other people, that's even my own plans. I trust all my plans, but all my plans have to pass the verification check. And the verification check is in the work. No, I trust this is going to work, but there are some variables that I may not see. It's my skepticism that makes it easy for me to engage that. All right. Because at the end of the day, I'm using the data to make the decision. Because I no longer believe in purity, perfection, or predestination, I don't carry the pressure of knowing what's going to work and what's not going to work in advance. I don't live under that pressure. I don't live. Some people don't do things because they don't know if they're going to work. And that means you're never going to do anything then. You're never going to do anything that you've never done before, which means you're never going to learn how to do more. You capping yourself. You know? So now, because I don't believe in perfection, I don't believe in purity, I don't believe in predestination, I know the probability of me failing is high. And but watch this, if the probability of me failing is high, then the probability of me learning is exponential. Y'all missed it. Y'all missed it. No, I'm probably going to fail. But in that failure, I'm going to learn something about that process that I would not have known if I would not have attempted it. Oh, man. Sometimes people ask me, Darante, how do you know so much more than me? Because I failed more than you. No, I've been embarrassed more than you. No, I was at the top of my game and walked away. You're not going to do that. Now, what are you willing to get in the ring and fight for? Okay, I'm sorry. No, so I got to get the data. Mm-hmm. But see, and that's the flip side of being skeptical. The flip side of being skeptical is it makes you harder to bully. It makes you harder to bully. I ended a friendship last year because I don't do relationships with people who succumb to bullies. You know? And that might be something about my triggers just being a black man. So you just gonna watch them lynch me. Okay. No, in a friendship, even though you're not the one lynching me, even though you're not the one attacking my character, but you're withholding protection so you don't lose friends because you honor friendship with bullies because it can move you ahead. See, that tells me so much about your character. And then I'll just go ahead and be like, hey, you know that relationship we had? I'm cool on that. That's my skepticism. Woo. But that skepticism can also protect you from bullies because there'll be people who might be trying to bully you into something. And no, I don't have to be bullied into something. I don't have to. And so a skeptical leader is willing to pivot when a program isn't working because they aren't emotionally married to a bad idea. They aren't emotionally married to a bad idea. That's I tell my team all the time, I'm not married to anything, yo. So if there's a better, if you think there's a better idea, pitch it and then prove it. You like that? No, if you think there's a better idea, pitch it and then prove it. They just, the skeptical leader wants to know what works best for the community. The cynical leader gets stuck in micromanagement. They assume employees or volunteers will slack off the moment they aren't being watched. Growth becomes stagnant because they often miss out on great partnerships because they assume the other party either has a hidden agenda or has to stay strictly stuck on their agenda. So I'm going to use an example from the chat. I forgot to block people who weren't subscribers, so it looks like somebody jumped in. But it says, have you studied all of the historical proof that Jesus is real? See, as a person, I want to acknowledge this because this is why I don't talk to Christians. You're not an aware, honorable person if you jump into a conversation and you can't read the room to see what the conversation is about, right? So at this moment, what this person is demonstrating is that they are a fucking child. You know, they're a child. And that's what Christianity does to people. It infantilizes them. This poor person doesn't even know that they're a child. They just walked up into a room in a conversation where adults are having a conversation. and did not have the mental capacity, did not have the cognitive capacity to say, oh, that's not what they're talking about right now. Let me go find somebody who's talking about what I want to be talking about. Nope. They went into Wendy's and asked for tacos. So had to throw that out there. Okay. So now let's get back into this. So the trap of cynicism is for those who've spent decades in a system, and it can be the church, only to leave it. Cynicism often feels like protection. If you assume everyone is self-interested, you can't be blindsided again. If you can assume that everything is a slippery slope back to religion, then you feel like, no, I'm protecting myself because I don't ever want to be that again. And it's like, no, what you're trying to do now is you're looking for the patterns and not necessarily understanding the process. Okay, yeah, we're going to go there. So watch this. While skepticism is the scalpel, it cuts away what is dead to save the body. Cynicism is a sledgehammer. It breaks everything, including the good stuff. All right. So what you'd have to do, of course, is a thing you could do to check if am I operating in skepticism or am I operating in cynicism? Very easy question. Is there any evidence that would change my mind right now? Is there any evidence that will change my mind? And if there is no evidence that can change my mind, then I'm not operating. If evidence can't change my mind, then I'm not operating in skepticism. I've already closed my mind to the idea. Cynicism at that moment. Yeesh. Okay. And yes, there are some things that I am cynical about. Okay. I am not just skeptical about God. I am cynical about God. I'm not just skeptical about Jesus. I am cynical about Jesus. I'm done with it. I spent 2 decades in it, So now the biggest issue that comes out of not catching this difference between skepticism and cynicism is something that as a phrase I coined last year, or it might have been the year before last, called secular avoidance. All right. Secular avoidance. Secular avoidance is when post-religious people reject community building forms, not just because those forms are harmful in themselves, but because they symbolically resemble the environments they no longer trust. The result is not liberation, but infrastructural weakness. All right. That's secular avoidance. And it's essentially a trauma-informed cynicism. It's cynicism informed by trauma. When people have been burned by religious institutions, they develop a hyper-vigilant immune response. The moment an experience shares a form with religion, their system triggers a rejection regardless of the content. It mistakes resemblance for equivalence. Oh, okay. It equates so now, because this looks like this is this. One of these things is not like the other, though. See that is a logical flaw. It's a logical flaw to say this looks like that, therefore it is that. Do you see the shortcut? Do you see the shortcut that we're taking? Okay. So now a person encounters something that has a familiar texture of church or religion, regular gathering, shared songs, ritual, coordinated language, community leadership, repeated meetings, moral reflection, collective identity. That sounds like church. So watch this. I don't call them criticisms, but sometimes people call them criticisms. I don't call them criticisms, but 2 criticisms that I get, and the reason I don't call them criticisms because they're always based on people's triggers. It's based off of their triggers, their trauma triggers, and the moment you want me to change who I am because of your trauma triggers, you're robbing me of my authenticity. And and I would say bias will take you there. It'll take you at the seat of all discrimination is bias, So two of the criticisms that I get sometimes is, well, I like Darante, except for when he starts sounding like a preacher, And while I get what they mean, you have no idea how inaccurate and even inappropriate that is. Because you're using the label preacher, but what you're really saying is, I like Darante until he starts sounding like a black man, until he starts sounding culturally black. Because that's what it is, but your bias doesn't allow you to see it when you're watching a black comedian, but maybe you don't watch black comedians. Because if you did watch black comedians, you'd recognize the same cadence styles used. You recognize the same inflection style used. But because I just so happen to be a former pastor, now anytime I passionately talk, it must be religious baggage and not cultural expression. Woo, man. I hope this is helping somebody. And it's like, no, I get the trigger. I understand where it comes from. I was having a conversation with somebody last year about, I think it's right after I wrote the song Empty. And they said, I just love his music. It just sounds, all your music just sounds so churchy. And I'm like, I wonder, is that how you describe all inspirational music? Is that how you describe all music that has a positive message? And if it does, that speaks volumes of what secular actually means to you. That means secular humanism doesn't have an attachment to positivity for you. It only has an attachment to breaking down. So in your world, man, you live in a place where other people, goodness gracious, this is good, where other people have to change who they are to fit you. And it's mind-blowing. You don't have to do that. Oh, man. I love this. Done again. All right, so instead of asking, what is this actually doing? And that's what the skeptic asks. The cynic sees it and says, it reminds me of church. I don't like it. It's bad. Sounds like church. I don't like it. It's bad. Ooh, no, isn't that the same thing religious people do? I don't like it. It's bad. Instead of asking an actual logical question, a question of critical inquiry, like, what is this actually doing? What values is it producing? What power dynamics are present? Instead, they react with, this feels like church, therefore it is church, therefore it is dangerous. That skips analysis and collapses memory into truth. This reminds me of something, and therefore what it has to be what it reminds me of. And that's not logical processing. So the real issue is not just rejection, it's category contamination. The form becomes guilty by association. This creates a massive barrier to sustainable community development. And that's the problem. So look at this. Let's kind of look at the mechanics of it. You have secular avoidance starts with the trigger, all right? And the trigger can be the regular gathering, it could be the music, it could be mindfulness and meditation. Oh, we're gonna walk the damn dog in this conversation. I'm telling you, it can be mindfulness and meditation, and someone gets triggered. Well, that sounds too much like church. And at some point, that's when you have to realize The same way I just kind of got on to the poor fella that was in here at that moment. You're being a poor fella. Because like that's the A clause with no B clause. That just reminds me of church. Okay, what is the actual problem though? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, court reminds me of church sometimes. Actually, a really good concert will remind me of church. That statement has no objective value whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? Vanquished. Be gone. Oh yeah, I kick people out. I grew up on Martin. Like you ain't got to go home, but you got to get the hell up out of here. And so the trigger for the cynical person, is the regular gathering. And for them, the cynical interpretation is this is just church again. They want to control my time. And the skeptical distinction is no, consistent proximity is the only way to build deep social capital. Consistent proximity is the only way to build deep social capital. You can have two ugly people that are completely unattracted to each other. They don't like each other, can't stand each other. They two just fugly people, two butt ugly people that are not attracted to each other at all. But if they spend consistent time together, studies have shown they will develop affection for each other. This is why arranged marriages worked for so long. This is why arranged marriages worked for so long. This is why they worked. Because you spend enough time with people, then you develop affection for them. So one of the biggest issues we have is that we're not spending enough time with people. This is why we don't have community. Community doesn't exist in a vacuum. You're not going to show it. Watch this. The secular community, and I'm going to say it loud and proud, we have events. You don't got a community. But then also, and I'm going to call the secular community out on the carpet. I'm going to call the atheist community out on the carpet. The atheist community, by far and large, refused to support organizations like Sunday Assembly. Refused to support organizations like Oasis, which they have one in Houston, Texas. They have one in Orlando, Florida. And these were places that were offering, unapologetically providing space, not in a framework that I would say is most effective, but they were providing it. And you'd go to many secular organizations, which, mind you, are taking your money and fighting battles that don't even impact you. I had to say it, And when those organizations go looking for support, there is no partnership. I was surprised at how many people in the atheist community didn't know about Sunday Assembly. I was like, it's very interesting. But you pay attention closely enough, you will notice that there is a little click there. And I'm gonna I ain't gonna say too much. I don't want to start gossiping, but your boy got the tea. Right? All right. So, man, being understood is a powerful feeling. Yes, gaining understanding comes with time, So a skeptical post-religious person can help build something new because they're willing to test, refine, critique, and improve forms without rejecting them wholesale. And that was really my approach to religion when I deconverted. But a part of my deconversion was about experience, another part was about memory, and another part was about sociology. When people ask me why, after serving the Lord all this time, why did you become an atheist? And it's like, because I have a good ass memory. I remember the prayers, I remember the experiences, and then sociology gave me the language for understanding the experiences, and it allowed me to look at the bigger picture and get a better understanding. Like it was after that, it was easy for me. So a cynical post-religious person struggles to build because they are often treating familiarity itself as contamination. So if this even looks like this, then it's dangerous. And I stay away from that because that's always going to lead to discrimination, no matter how you frame it. No matter how you frame it, it's going to lead to discrimination. If you believe in contamination, you believe in discrimination. Ooh, damn it, I got to say it again. If you believe in contamination, then you believe in discrimination. And I've seen a lot of discrimination from people claiming to be advocates of equality. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. All right, so skepticism says, no, we need safeguards, we need transparency, we need shared power, and we need clarity. Cynicism says we need distance from anything that feels remotely like what hurt us. And while I can understand that knee-jerk reaction, we still got to understand its knee-jerk reaction. You know? One of these creates better institutions. The other makes institutions almost impossible to sustain. And so after over 100 years of modern secularism in the United States, it has nothing to show for it. We don't have any orphanages. We don't have any schools. We don't have any systemic feeding programs. We don't have any real rehab programs that we're supporting. 100 years is like, that's a long time. I know churches that have only existed 20 years that started with absolutely nothing and have done more than the secular community has managed to do in 100 of them. But when you talk to the people in the secular community, it is always a fucking excuse. Well, they had a head start. Well, we don't have the money they have. Well, they tax-free. Sorry. Explain the NFL. Explain any other organization that did not exist 100 years ago, but has somehow managed to mobilize itself. Ugh. Okay. So, yeah, skepticism protects us from deception, but cynicism can prevent us from building. Or even more pointed, skepticism asks whether a thing is harmful. Cynicism assumes harm based on resemblance. And that is where the secular avoidance lies. If we don't learn to distinguish between what harms people and what merely reminds us of harm, we will sabotage our ability to build healthy alternatives. And I mean, like, because that also, it doesn't just put you on high alert to ideas, it puts you on high alert against other people. You know? The moment somebody else reminds you just a little bit of something else, all of a sudden you're on high alert. And I'm like, hey, bro, simmer down. You don't own them, colonizer. And like, we have to be very careful, because it does seem like our idea of moving forward is being able to control everybody. We don't do that here. Okay? When a people neglect regular embodied gathering because it feels too much like church, they do not become free-floating, enlightened individuals. They usually become socially thin, episodic, and infrastructure poor. Okay? Like, you want to know, like, you can point to the signs when a community is not healthy. When a community is not operationally functional. And that's why Bridge City exists. And we're new. We're just moving from conception into operation. But you can tell when a community is not operationally functional. When I start sharing information, I had tons of people telling me, oh, we don't need community. We don't need community. Nobody really needs community. We just need to all stop believing. And we just need to tell people about how bad it is. But then I started noticing there wasn't a week that went by for almost 7 weeks straight. There wasn't a week that went by that somebody in the secular community wasn't needing a GoFundMe. Oh no, we're about to go there. It wasn't even like seven weeks straight. Not a week could go by where some well-connected person in the secular community, some active person in the secular community has experienced some financial tragedy and now needs to depend on these other people who they have never met to either, to take care of them, basically. But you then still have the audacity to say you don't need community. That's a problem. Hold on. You need the community's money, but you don't need the community. Help me understand that. And that's when I realized, like, no, we have people that are toting a company line. They're not actually even engaged in what they're talking about. Because no, if you run into an emergency and you have no support, then that means you need community. Oh my goodness. And so now we got a whole bunch of people out here who have to depend on other people who are also struggling because I can only say it the way I say it, because we're too stupid to actually work together collectively, collaboratively. You picking at the church, but they can feed people. And every time you need something, you got to beg. Okay. No, we're going to talk. I told y'all, we're going to talk. You don't need community, but you got to GoFundMe? No, take that GoFundMe down. You don't need community. Because what that GoFundMe is community support. So instead of just waiting to beg people for it when you need it, why not become a part of the foundation that's building it so that it can be available? Like, you got to think about the future. Don't wait for the emergency to think like, oh, I think. No, you need to be, listen, everybody need to be looking at their house and their bank account right now and be like, you know what? I am way too broke not to have a community. I am way too broke not to have a community. And it can't just be online. No, I need people close to me. Having a community close to you is the difference between having to pay somebody to come pick you up when your car breaks down and being able to call your friend. Man. Whew. And so now, like, it costs you more to do life when you're doing it alone. And I just don't know if everybody has that luxury. Listen, some people got that privilege. I grew up in the slums, man. Everything I have, I've had to get it out on my own. Poverty is what I've known the majority of my life. Living is expensive. Yes, Shelwyn, community is a building block to life. All right. So when we're operating, when we've shifted to more cynicism than skepticism, community becomes expensive and fragile. All right. So now anytime to do community, we got to borrow space. We got to rent venues. And I want you to think about this, like, because these are the things that I look at as a sociologist. I'm like, wait a minute. So we got 100 years of, a good 100 years of humanism. But anytime any secular organization, and I haven't looked at all of them, but so far from what I've seen, all of the secular organization events that I've seen are in somebody else's building. Every single one of them. That means every time you want to bring your community together, you have to pay somebody else a tax to do it. And it's not a cheap one. And I don't know if y'all know anything about renting out a building when you're a nonprofit, but you still got to get insurance on that building while you're renting that building out, just in case something happens to somebody. Oh no, this gets expensive. And so that we take in all of this money as a community, and then we give that money right back out to people who don't care about what we're doing as humanists. Like, we are taxing ourselves. We got to rebuild momentum from scratch. We have to re-explain the vision every time. Every time we come together, we have to reassemble people without any rhythm, and we have to pay for access to structures that we've never built. And we've never built it not because we couldn't. We've never built it because it hasn't been a priority. And that's the same question that I had to wrestle with as a pastor. Are we actually trying to help? Or are we just doing what other people expect us to do? So the problem is not only emotional or philosophical, it's also architectural and economic. A community that avoids regularity cannot accumulate density. A community that cannot accumulate density cannot justify permanent space. A community without permanent space keeps paying outsiders for temporary belonging. And I'm going to tell you something right now. That's when it's real for people. That's when it's real for people. Like, listen to me. Like, just come into my vision for a moment. Come into my vision for a moment. The neighborhood you live in, let's say if there's an imaginary, not imaginary, but let's just say there's a standalone grocery store, something like that, standalone retail store. It's been shut down, all right? It's been shut down, but there's been a growing group of people who've been doing a Bridge City watch party in that area. And they've been meeting at schools because they've grown, and now they got this little building that they meet at, and maybe they see about 300 people on the weekends. They have incredible music. They have incredible events that happen throughout the week. They have workshops, seminars on everything from finances to relationships. They do community service projects, and you are a person that is secular, that is deconstructing, that is just realizing that religion doesn't work for you. And it just so happens to be in your city that you have at least 5 spaces like that. See, that's where everything changes. That's where everything changes. When you're walking down the street and you see that Bridge City campus and you say, let me go check that out. That's when everything changes. A community without permanent space. It's that permanent space that lets other people feel normalized, that lets other people feel recognized. We can't keep meeting in hotels and conference centers and expect to have an identity. People have to see some sense of public permanence. And that's why Bridge City is obsessed with this model of local communities. If we achieve what I'd like for us to achieve by the end of the year, and that is to have an established community in LA, an established community in Miami, an established community in Atlanta, and an established community at MSU, because those are the places that are on the radar. Hey, anywhere else, holla at your boy. But if we achieve that, it changes the world for many people. It changes the options for many people. And I hate to kind of pat myself on the back. One of the reasons I am the differentiator here, and it's not just me, I'm telling you, there are going to be some people that come out of the faith that are 10 times better than me at all of this. And that's why I do this, is to prepare the way for them. But I am indeed the differentiator. Sunday Assembly, great organization, but it was not started by a preacher. Okay, it was not started by a pastor, by anybody with any pastoral experience. That's why they only meet one Sunday a month. And Sunday Assembly, if y'all watching, holla at your boy. I'd love to work with you, but one Sunday in a month is not going to do it. I'm just trying to tell y'all. Come on, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Yes, like when that becomes a reality, when people can actually see those campuses, that sense of public permanence, it does something for people. then you go from humanism, post-religious life, going from being a thing where people were like, oh, that's something for weirdos, to becoming an option, to finally being a viable, competitive alternative, because you have spaces for people to cultivate it. We're not always having to rent out somebody else's facility, which means we're always having to put a paywall on who can show up to our events, which makes us class restrictive to begin with. This is the reason I canceled. Remember, we were going to do events at the beginning. I think it was the end of January. We were going to do an event in Atlanta and an event in LA. And we charged for the first event we did in LA, and it wasn't high, and I wasn't mad at that at all. We will do some ticketed events. We're not stupid. But for Bridge City specific events, especially for events where we're trying to introduce people to the vision and grow the vision, I don't want there to always have to be a paywall. You know? So that's why we actually pulled that event back. But all right, so let me get through this. Let me get through this. All right. So we don't have buildings. We don't have that sense of public permanence. And my argument is that comes more so from our cynicism and our secular avoidance than it comes from our actual ability to make it happen. I think the only thing that's keeping humanist communities, which I'm gonna stop using the word secular, and I'll tell you why. I'm gonna stop using the word secular because it's just redundant, which makes it useless. But the reason we're until we start building communities that are communities, right? And so sometimes when people are struggling with the question, like, how do you build a community? What do you build a community around? What most people try to do is try to build a niche, okay? And so we're going to build a community that only focuses on this. That is not a community. Hell, that's not even a neighborhood. At that moment, it's a project. A community can't focus on just one thing. It cannot be restricted to one subject or one topic. All communities exist for the same exact reason: to benefit the people who are part of the community. It's literally that simple, y'all. And then you study the social frameworks that work, and you adjust, you do things, and you just, there's like, I don't care about, like, we put out so many music. Some people love it, some people hate it, some people think it's corny. I don't care, because we got to get it out there. You know, no, you got to start somewhere. You got to start somewhere. You got to get it out there so that you can hear how people are responding to it. Because things are shaped by the way people respond, not before. Remember, that's what you got to fail first. You learn so much from failure. You're like, damn, they hated that song. You know which song I thought people were going to hate? It blew my mind. Blew my mind. The jalapeno song. Jalapeno habanero, hell yeah. Jalapeno habanero, hell yeah. I thought people were going to hate that. It's turned out to be one of people's favorite songs that we've done. You know? All right. So without a physical third space, without a physical third place that the community owns, there really is no home. And it's hard to build a legacy or provide 24/7 services like a food pantry or co-working space when you only have access to a space for 4 hours for a special event that you have to put up a paywall for people to get to. The moment we have local campuses, the game is changed. I'm telling you. I am telling you. Because again, we have the greater gospel. I was talking to my head of community for DLDD World Group this week and reflecting on this past Sunday's conversation. And she was like, dude, you said something that I don't think I ever realized was true until you said it. And that was, I said that there are many people right now who are sitting in a church and they absolutely love their church and they love being a part of it. But if there was a building right now across the street from them, filled with just as many people, still got music and offers all of the same things without the bullshit, 90% of those people would gladly walk over to the next building. Most people are sitting in their churches waiting for one day that they don't have to pretend to believe, that they don't have to perform certainty. And we have, like, the secular community, we have that leverage, okay? And then, of course, the paradox of this whole thing is the very thing that people avoid, institutional structure, is the only thing that provides the stability to actually solve the problems they care about. And so if we actually care about the problems, then we actually have to start organizing around them to solve them. If nobody can tolerate regular gathering without reading it as religious regression, then nobody builds the rhythm, the trust, or the density required to sustain land, buildings, and community infrastructure. The result is a secular movement that may be intellectually free, but socially underdeveloped. Another thing that Bridge City campuses will get to do, because we won't just have buildings, we'll also have land. You know what type of resource you get to be when you have a community organization that owns land, and this organization is people-centric, it is forward-thinking, and it's life-affirming. One of the ideas that came up in a recent meeting was like, and this is something, we don't even own any land, we're talking about doing it now. Like, we're talking about renting like little garden plots to support community gardens. But like, those are things that we get to provide as we build. Like, that's ultimately what I want people to get excited about, is not just what we get to do on Sundays at a campus, but what we get to do because we exist. Sundays is just how we get people in the door. Sundays is just how we let people know that there's another way. Sundays is just how we get people excited and celebrate people and let them know that Bridge City is here. But it's what you can do on Monday through Sunday that I want people to get excited about. To be able to think, oh man, you mean to tell me, like, yeah, if we have a Bridge City community campus here, we can pick out a plot of land over here and grow food and make that a community vegetable garden. And so then maybe even we can partner with the different food banks in here to make sure that they can give out fresh food. Because most times when you go to the food pantries, you can only get the non-perishables because those are easier to store. And most pantries can't afford refrigeration. Come on, man. Like, you get to become something different. You get to be a solution. You get to partner with schools. You get to take the burden off of teachers. That's the power of community. You, as a person, can't do that unless you're rich. But we, as a people, can do that as long as we're willing to work together. Some of you think you got a money problem. No, bro, you got a people problem. Okay, I'm sorry. So, skepticism is a tool for better construction. Cynicism is often a reflex that leaves the lot empty. All right. And so then this is the last thing I want to hit, and then I'm going to wrap it up, because I told you I wanted to come from this from every different angle, from every different angle that I could think of. So here's the last one. And this is the one that I think is, y'all might get mad at me. I'm going to see if my numbers drop after this. All right. Cynicism often produces a consumer posture toward community. Man. Man. Thank you. I appreciate that, Dex. That's beautiful. Cynicism often produces a consumer posture towards culture. So watch this. Instead of asking, how do we build this, or what is required to sustain this, the cynic often asks, did this meet my taste? Did this feel right to me? Was this delivered in the way that I prefer? Did I enjoy the format, the tone, the leadership, the music, the structure, or people enough to keep showing up? Now, please understand, that is perfectly natural. It is an organic response. And as of now, I don't think any of us can do anything to stop that reaction, but we can keep it from becoming our response, right? It is absolutely naturally to respond that way. And I've shared stories of where I've done the same thing, like with other people, and had to really like, ooh, stop that. They don't owe you their lived experience, you know. The problem with this approach is that it is a consumer frame, not a community one. A consumer evaluates an experience based on preference and satisfaction. A builder evaluates an experience based on purpose, function, and potential. Okay. I do not enjoy watching sports at all, not even a little bit. I don't mind playing, can't stand watching, hate it. Okay. However, my sons decided they wanted to be in the band when they got into middle school, and that meant I had to go to football games. Okay. Now, I'm not going to the games because I find value in the games. I'm going to the games because I find value in my children. All right. Going to a game is not my preference. As a musician and as a creative, marching band music is definitely not my thing. You know what I'm saying? But I did not trap my children's experience into my preference. And nor did I make them feel bad for wanting that experience that was out of line with my preference. And that is because my preference had no utility, but that experience did. That experience has utility for them and where they're trying to go with their life. Okay. And so many times we have to remember that other people's experiences are for them, not for us. Like I often remind people, like, I am ribbed for my pleasure, not yours. Okay. So a builder isn't evaluating the experience based on purpose or function, not just preference. There's a lot of things that are not my preference, but what is the purpose of the moment right now? What is the function? Right? What's it? It's not like right now, I literally work Monday through Sunday. I have no days off. It's been like that for like, I was about to say 2 years, but who am I kidding? It's been like that for a long time now. But like, I don't have any days off. That is not my preference. But because I understand my purpose, I can't just remain in this, damn. Like, this is how some people destroy their lives. They approach their lives with a cynical approach. I'm gonna give you a cynical approach. I shouldn't have to do all of this. Anybody ever said that before? I shouldn't have to do all of this. I shouldn't have to work this hard. I shouldn't have to do this much. I shouldn't have to fight that much. You said it. When people say that to me in a coaching session, my next question is why? Why shouldn't you? Who told you shouldn't have to? Where did you find that rule at? Where are you pulling that justification from? Is it just because it's uncomfortable that you think you shouldn't have to? Like, where are you getting the should from? See, when I let go of superstition, I had to let go of should. Oh no, I had to let go of should. No. I can think it shouldn't have to be this hard all day long. But the truth of the matter is it is. And so now what am I going to do about it? I firmly believed that my family should have been supporting me. I've been exceptional my whole life. I almost had a record deal in the 7th grade and turned it down because I got saved. Burnt all my damn albums. I've been exceptional my whole life. By the time I was 11 years old, I was already in the NAACP speaking and singing in their meetings. I've been exceptional my whole life. So my family, based on how exceptional I think I've been, they should have been supporting me all the way through. No, they should have been supporting me. I should not have to support myself. If I stayed stuck there, I'd still be stuck there. Damn, that was good. Okay, slipped up on that. All right, cynics can sound thoughtful, even intelligent when they critique, but not all critique is constructive. People love that phrase, this constructive criticism. Anytime someone tells me something is constructive criticism, my next question is, what is it building? If it is constructive criticism, what is it constructing? Because sometimes constructive criticism is really just personal preference. And that's okay. You're allowed to have your preferences, but your preferences are for you. You know, like somebody say, if I was you, I wouldn't. That's why you not me. Because your preferences are for you. Oh, man. So sometimes it's just aesthetic dissatisfaction dressed up as moral or intellectual seriousness. You know? So instead of saying this community is failing because its structure concentrates power, lacks transparency, or discourages participation, they may say things like, well, this just feels too polished. See, that is a criticism, but that's not a constructive one. Well, this just feels too organized. This just sounds way too much like church. All of these are criticisms, to be sure, but none of these are constructive. They're informative, but they're informative about your triggers and about your traumas, which deserve attention from you. Okay? And those, and to be clear, like those observations matter, but often they're not principled critiques. They are preferences being treated like universal insights. And that's where cynicism becomes expensive to community. All right? Because communities cannot be built on endless preference management. You cannot build a community around individual preferences, because in that way you're automatically building a tribe. Once you do that, you're saying we're only building a community for people who prefer it to be done this way, which means we've created a type, we've created a label, we've created an in-group, we've created an out-group. We've created a way to be human that only honors our lived experience. Do you see how easy it is? It isn't just religion that does this stuff to us. We're the ones who do it. Our religions are so harmful because we're the ones that are putting the harm in there. You know, like religion does not come before humanity. Humanity comes before the religion. So if religion is dangerous, it's because humans did it. And so until we can actually see ourselves as the culprits instead of seeing our tools as the culprit, you know, it's a horrible workman who blames his tools for his work. I don't blame politics. I don't blame religion. I blame us. Or let me take that back. I hold us responsible. I think that's the best way to say that. So communities can't be built on preference management. The moment we do that, we're automatically building another tribe. We're automatically creating another in-group and another out-group. The right way to be human and the wrong way to be human. You know, and that's one thing the modern church has learned, because they had to go through that the secular community has not learned. Okay. The modern church lost some of its greatest talent over preference issues. The modern church lost some of its greatest talent over preference issues. Tina Turner grew up in church. Anna Mae Bullock was her name, and used to love singing in the church choir. But they said she was doing too much. Well, we don't really want you to do it that way. Then you've already determined that people like me are not welcome here unless we are like you. All right. So A real community is not preference management. A real community has to ask what helps people connect, what creates trust, what makes participation sustainable, what builds continuity over time, what helps us gather consistently enough to develop shared memory and identity. That's why a part of our strategy for Bridge City is watch parties. It's how you take the online experience and start giving it physical legs without you having to become a leader overnight, without you having to become a master communicator overnight, without you having to become adept at sociology, at psychology, at hermeneutics. You know, it's so you can just be the host, open up your home or whatever spot you have available and create an atmosphere for a good time for people you invite over. Because that's what helps people connect. That's what creates trust. That's what makes participation sustainable. That's what builds continuity over time. And then imagine you watching Sunday sessions one day in your home, and we get started and we open up, and instead of the normal stuff, you see, hey, let's check in with Bridge City Atlanta and see how they're doing in their watch party. And then you sitting at your house get to see the camera in over there and seeing what they're doing. Listen, I know that stuff sounds small to some of you, but the way that I understand motivation, that shit is powerful. That shit is powerful. Like if I was sitting right now watching Sunday sessions and it's shot to a video camera and someone's like, hi, we're in Atlanta right now. There's about 10 to 15 of us packed in here. We're watching the Sunday session today. We're loving the topic and we're going to have a great time. We got some wings, some dips. And because we're not a regular church, we even got a little bit of alcohol. It's after 12, so that is powerful. That's how you normalize it. Okay. But those are different questions than did I like it? Did it match my personal aesthetic? Did it trigger any associations I dislike? Was it delivered in the exact cultural style I prefer? I think that's what's been destroying a lot of relationships. Did I miss a comment from Dark Light? So, and ultimately, I want you to see what that does. That's the difference between participant ownership and consumer distance. I don't cater to consumer culture because consumers create cults. I do not cater to consumer culture because consumers create cults. That's how that happens. That's how that happens. You show up to be convinced. You show up to consume. You show up to eat. You show up for somebody to do a dance for you. That's why ever since I've hit the scene, I've been always adamant. I am not your Negro. A cynic often remains emotionally uninvested enough to reserve the right to dismiss, and it's that distance that protects the ego. Because once I'm a builder, once I'm building, I can no longer just critique the outcome. I have to wrestle with the constraints. I got to wrestle with, okay, the space, the budget, the people, the time, the consistency, the leadership, the compromise, the messiness. What you will see that all cults have in common is that they have given somebody else responsibility for complexity. They just come to consume. No, you be responsible for the budget, the people, the time, the consistency, the leadership, the compromise, which means you're not responsible for anything except for doing what you're told. Consumers get to keep their hands clean. Builders have to get involved. And that may be why cynicism can feel sophisticated while actually being parasitic. It feeds on what others are trying to build without accepting the burden of building. Damn, I got to say that again. Cynicism, it feeds on what others are trying to build without accepting the burden of building. That doesn't mean that all criticism is bad, but because some criticism is indeed necessary. But the key question is this criticism trying to improve the thing or just position the speaker above it? Because constructive criticism usually has at least one of these qualities. It distinguishes between principle and preference. It accounts for real constraints. It aims to strengthen rather than merely dismiss. That's the constructive part. It is willing to share responsibility, and it offers a path forward. I think somebody asked me in the chat earlier, and I didn't get to respond, but the question was, what do you think about metaphysics? And while I do know that there is some validity in metaphysics, I think the word has been used so much, and I don't want to say some validity, is more than some, but the word has been used so much that most of the times when they're talking about metaphysics, they're actually just talking about bullshit. And so my filter for having any conversation around something like metaphysics is if whatever the person is claiming, arguing, presenting, or proposing, if it is true, what can we build with it? That's constructive. If the goal is only to change what I think in a way that has no impact on the way I engage the natural world, then that conversation is not worth my time outside of like scientific speculation, like sci-fi type of thing. If we're not being in the sci-fi realm, I don't know what we're doing, because that's the constructive aspect of it. That's how I judge the utility of knowledge for me, is can I take that knowledge and build something with it? You know, man, see you Sunday. So cynical criticism typically does the opposite. It confuses taste with truth. It ignores the cost of alternatives. Well, I wish we'd do it this way instead. Okay, what would we need to make that happen? Type of thing. It speaks from detachment. It gains identity through dissatisfaction. So people begin to know more about you based off of what you don't like than what you do like, and the most important one, it rarely commits to the labor of repair. So the cynic relates to community the way a customer relates to a product. The skeptic relates to community the way a steward relates to responsibility. A cynic says, this better impress me. A steward says, what would make this stronger? What would make this healthier and more durable? The cynic says, I don't like this because this doesn't meet my preference. The skeptic, who is still committed to being a builder, comes in and says, I can see why this is helpful, but there's something about it that won't reach people like me, and I think that's what I want to do here. I want to bring this part that is going to reach people like me. But you cross a line when you say, I want to cut this part out because it doesn't speak to me. And so now I can only have stuff that speaks to me, which again takes us right back into that place of discrimination, where the messaging, the motility, everything is based on this singular group's preference. Like if you're in a room, if you're in a community room and everybody agrees how one thing should be done, it's probably not a community anymore. It's probably an echo chamber. Like when people say, hey, something is an echo chamber, the first question I normally ask is, what's the echo? People say, how do I know if something is an echo chamber? What's the echo? What's being echoed? All right. You can't put the cart before the horse. I think it's an echo chamber. Okay. If it's an echo chamber, that means people are just kind of recycling the same beliefs. What's being recycled? What is allowed to be echoed without pushback? Otherwise, it's probably not what you think it is. Okay. But see, this is why cynics often struggle with sustainable community. Communities require people to tolerate imperfection long enough to build something better. But cynicism often keeps people in evaluation mode. They hover at the edge, assessing, comparing, critiquing, withholding, and reserving judgment. And I was doing some research and a while back on people in poverty and people not in poverty and the way they approach life. And something that came out of that was very mind blowing to me is that a lot of times people who have been shaped by poverty, everything they do, they want to be the 100% owner. Which is why they tend to start smaller businesses and tend to have smaller business ideas because they're looking for something where they are the owner. While on the other side of that spectrum, almost everybody I know who is doing well economically owns a very small percentage of their own business. It's a paradox. It's a paradox. I started noticing, even just when dealing with my own friends, that my own friends who've grown up in poverty their whole life, they require something to be perfect before they start. But then people who I've met who are doing well financially started when it was ugly. It's a paradox. Okay? So, building communities requires tolerating imperfection, which is easy for me because I don't believe in perfection. And if enough people do that, the community never really matures because sustainable community is not built by people asking, what can I get here that matches me? It's built by people asking, what can I help stabilize here that serves us? As I said Wednesday, pulling from Malcolm X, when I becomes we, even illness becomes wellness. Cynicism stays stuck on the why. It prevents us from stay stuck on the I. It prevents us from evolving into the we. Cynicism turns community into a product to be reviewed instead of a people to be joined. The cynic shows up asking whether the community pleases them. The builder shows up asking whether the community can be strengthened. A lot of what passes for constructive criticism is just unsubmitted labor. People naming what they dislike without accepting responsibility for what it takes to make anything work. And so 3 things that we'd want to distinguish is it preference, is it principle, or is it cynical posture? So preference, I like gatherings to be smaller and more conversational. And please do not get me wrong, preference is powerful. It can be powerful, but not when we try to use it to superimpose on others. So then there's principle. Now, I think the structure should reduce hierarchy and increase participation. It's principle, which is also fair. Cynical posture, this format feels off to me, so something is probably wrong with it. I don't see how that lane of logic is any different from the way Christians approach their relationship with the world. You know? So, and the thing is, like, not every negative reaction is actual insight. Some reactions are just taste. Some are trauma. Some, and I hope y'all are ready for this, is just your immaturity. Some is wisdom, or our wisdom. But the work is learning the difference. That means skepticism asks whether something is healthy. Cynicism assumes that something is compromised. Consumerism asks whether something caters to me without any consideration of the other people in the room. Now, those 3 can overlap in post-religious spaces and create a culture where people are highly articulate about what they dislike, but weak at creating what they actually need. That may be one of the central community problems of our time. Cynics often approach community like customers, not co creators. So their criticism may sound constructive, but often it's just preference without the responsibility yet. And it's the very mindset that makes cults possible. Leaders don't create cults, people who refuse to be leaders do. Leaders don't create cults. It's the people it's the people who throw off their responsibility for personal leadership that makes cults possible. So that's my anti-cult strategy. My anti-cult strategy is not teaching people how to recognize who is more likely to start a cult. You can't start a cult if people won't follow a cult. All right. And so then it's really identifying, honing in on what makes people susceptible to following a cult. The answer is very easy. Making someone else responsible for your life. The moment you're willing to make anybody else responsible for your life and your understanding of the world, you've made it possible for a cult to exist because you will be a part of it. You will be there. We put more value on they fooled me than we do I got fooled. The number of people who are capable of being fooled is much more alarming to me than the number of people who are trying to fool. Because it means we have more than an education crisis in this country. If this many people can be fooled into a cult over and over and over again, then the problem isn't with leaders, it's with the absence of leaders. Jalapeno. That was too good. That was too good. And that's why this is, to me, this is important, you know. And I'm through. I done almost went 2 whole hours. And I missed a super chat. Man, thank you. Thank you, Shelwyn. That is beautiful. But I've gone about 2 hours. But this is important to me because, like, I value skepticism more than anything else. But I am concerned. I don't want to say more than I value skepticism a lot. But I am concerned that cynicism is masquerading as skepticism. And I do want people to have ways of identifying that. And the biggest way is like, okay, what are you building? If you're not building if you're not building anything, the posture, you're not pursuing anything. Skepticism is a methodology of pursuit. It's how I get closer to the outcomes I want. So what are you trying to get close to? And what are you building to get there? I don't want cynicism to get us stuck and rob us out of this moment to play a critical part in the evolution of our species, you know? That's how deep it is for me. That's how deep it is for me. All right. So anyway, thank y'all all for hanging out with me today. I always appreciate when y'all in here. Dark Light, I appreciate you. Shelwyn, I appreciate you. I think I saw Monica in here earlier. You all are good. I hope these conversations bring value to your life. And if they do me a favor. Come back right after this ends and comment under it to let other people know that there was some fire in the room today. You got to let them know. You got to let them know. Also, this week is Giving Tuesday for Bridge City. Well, yesterday was Giving Tuesday, but this is our week of Giving Tuesday. So if you want to support the work that we do, the QR code is on the screen for you to utilize. And I mean, your gift, no matter how large or small, it helps the work that we do. It helps us sustain. And again, right now, you're only seeing a fraction of what we're capable of doing. And so whether you're giving $1 or 1 million, we are greatly appreciative of it. Greatly appreciative of it. All right, so that's all I got for now. I love y'all very much. I appreciate you. Continue to live your life. Continue to be your best self so that you can do your best work. And until next time, keep rising.
Don't sit around, please don't settle now. We can do better now. We can get up. Please don't sit around, please don't settle now. We can do better now. Please don't sit around.